Good evening, Galion, and those surrounding Galion, because I know from our read of our watchers and viewers that we have people here in the community, and then certainly people who are former Galionites that tune in upon occasion. On that topic, we were talking earlier today in our office, and these Facebook Live presentations have had over 16,000 viewers this year, so I want to thank those people who took some time and either watched it live, submitted questions, or who have picked it up and viewed it at their own convenience. I continue to think that this is a good informational vehicle to let people interact with myself here in the office, and quite honestly, I would like to have some of our regular viewers jot down a suggestion or two about what we can do to make these half-hour or 40-minute presentations a little better as we go into 2019. As they say, it's in the budget, meaning the funding to bring these to you, so we fully intend to do it next year. I'd like to make it a little bit more meaningful, so if you can submit a question or an idea, we certainly look forward to that. We had one guest earlier this year when the city auditor joined in, and so that might be a format change we'd want to do. So anyway, one of the things that we've learned in this past year is that questions come in right after we sign off on a particular Monday night. So last week, as we were shutting down the broadcast, we did get a question about housing in the community. And that's sort of a general theme. I would say second to when are we going to get a grocery store, which is probably number one on the question list. Questions about dilapidated properties, how vacant properties can be demolished or funds can be acquired to do that. And so this question came in last week talking about those homes and what the progress is. And so I'd like to just mention that temporarily, at least over the next several months, the land bank that's really operated countywide through the county treasurer's office has really discontinued providing more funds, and are waiting for an additional allocation, if you will, another grant to Crawford County from the state, which is holding some of the fees and the money that's collected from the HARP legislation passed on the federal level a handful of years ago. In any case, there's a little bit of a slow period in getting additional homes demolished, but the land bank continues to work on that. Another source of funds that we have used in the past, will continue to use going forward, are federal block grant funds. A good example of that is the recent demolition of the Neff Brothers Market on Buhler, and our belief that that's redevelops into a decent set, 3, 4 maybe, housing lots there on Buhler on the site of the old Neff Brothers Market. So yes, the short answer to Mr. Webb's question was we're going to continue to pursue that, but largely with land bank funds that we work through the county to secure, and with federal funds that we either compete for countywide, or and quite honestly, we have a little bit of money in our coffers, maybe approximately $30,000, that we could probably get 4 or 5 more houses demolished. So yeah, in 2019, we're going to continue to try to tackle that very obvious need of demolishing properties and freeing up some of the neighborhoods that have those vacant homes on them. So, anyways, any questions so far?
Yes, we do have one new question tonight. This one comes from Mike. He asks, "Are the city crews still picking up leaves?"
Yeah, it's a good question, and the answer is yes. We will continue. I was a little optimistic this morning in the office. I was saying to the service director that looked like it was going to be in the 50s later this week, and then I realized I was looking at local weather for a city south of us. So that may be a little bit ambitious, but honestly, the forecast for this week looks like mid-30s into the 40s. So our gang will gangs will be getting equipped right, getting the weather gear on, the coveralls and such, and be out. Really 3 crews right now. One of the things that pushed us behind earlier in this leaf collection season was that we had 2 out of 3 of our machines went on the blink, and so we had been in the process of getting those fixed. So now we're back out there, and like I said, the weather looks good for the next 10 days or so. So somebody with a specific pile in their front yard, or their neighbor's got a huge pile, my suggestion is to call up at City Hall. Just call 419-468-1857, and somebody who answers the phone will get your address. And although they work on a collection route, if they will, we're getting to a point this year where we'll begin to have more and more 1 or 2 location on the block. People, for instance, with a lot of oak trees that drop late, they'll have a need for our services. So my suggestion is, between now and the time we really get into winter, give us a call at 468-1857, and we'll get the address and try to get out in the next day or 2 following that. So.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. Also have another question from Mike. He asks, what's going on with the liquor licenses for the state liquor store? Is someone planning to open a store, or is it for sale?
It's a really good question, and I have about 20% of the information. So what I'm going to share with you, it certainly doesn't come from any expertise. Any great expertise, we're qualified. And basically, I think a lot of Galionites, I'm one of them, that believe that we were somehow entitled to a liquor license here in Galion. It's really not how it operates. And that when the liquor store closed at Geyer's, that license no longer remains that operator's property. So it goes back to the state. My plan is, without exaggerating how much of a turnover happens in Columbus when you have a new governor, but the fact is, a lot of people who are decision makers and can set us on the right road are either looking for a new job to move up, or looking to get off the train before they get pushed. So our plan really within city government is to wait until after the first of the year, and then approach the state about what's the best process. My expectation, last thing I'd say, is that they will offer that for effectively a public auction, and that they'll be, if requested, I believe we'll probably get a liquor store back. Right now it is a bit of an issue. I think it's kind of awkward at holiday time, I think, when a lot of spirits are consumed, but for now, there's no guarantee, and city government's going to kind of lay low until we see what sort of state government leadership there is forming up, and then we'll make a request. Because if Mike's question is one of, we need one in town, I tend to agree and think that that's something that'll either through the business community, most likely, or through some local government involvement, we'll get some action out of Columbus and get that taken care of.
Okay. Next question comes from Cindy. She asks, any news on a grocery store?
Yeah, honestly, Cindy, it's like number 1 on the most frequent asked questions. I wish we had a certificate for the new grocery store operator that we could hand out to the 50th caller that asked that. I really think not much has changed over the past week. I'd say that work continues. The owner of the shopping center will be in town later this week for a meeting on some other development that they're interested in participating in, and I fully expect to meet with him again. The snag, as I understand it, has to do with finding a food distributor to supply the store, and that previous company that supplied the Geyers chain is really not interested until they're reimbursed for some of their costs or expenses. So I think that most of the effort is moving to find another wholesaler, and there, I think between that, the owner of the shopping center and the possible operator, there's understanding, concurrence, and some excitement, and they're just trying to find somebody that's a good, dependable person to provide the food to stock the shelves, quite literally. So it's I can't, I'm like everyone else. A couple times a week, or at least once a week, I find myself in Bucyrus or Ontario. Nothing wrong with those places, but I ask myself, why am I over here? Although, if that happens to me once a week in, let's say, Ontario, I ask myself, what else do I need to pick up at Drug Mart in Galion probably 6 or 7 times a week? So I gotta say thank you to Randy and the people at the Drug Mart. They're stepping it up and trying to be responsive to the customers, and that's been a good thing. And as I'd mentioned a couple of other times, what Dollar General is doing to expand their shelf space is a real positive, and what we hope, we understand, may happen at Save-A-Lots. All of those are good things, moving us kind of back to where we need to be as a community this size, but it's not what many people in town are really hoping for, and that's a full service grocery like they'd grown accustomed to over 20, 30 years or more. So.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. Those are all the questions we have for right now.
Well, I'm going to take just a couple seconds before I wrap up and describe in brief a meeting we had last week and begin to share with you the need for people in the community to become informed and speak up on the topic of a sports complex. We had some of the proponents. Last week we had our Freeze Advisory Board met to discuss generally about 2019 projects. And we had the playground that we had some drawings to look at. We've shown some drawings on previous Facebook Live broadcast. But what the discussion boiled down to is a now over 4 or 5 years discussion of a regional sports complex that could meet an unmet need for soccer, volleyball, basketball primarily as the hub of the activity, in about a 55,000 square foot facility. So coming out of that meeting, I was surprised about how little information people, even on the advisory board, had about the specifics of the planning process. So I think tonight I just wanted to reintroduce that idea briefly, say that it is alive. I think if it's alive and well, it'll be a result of people who feel like that type of facility should be, the phase of exploring it and studying it needs to be drawn to an end, and as you often hear, fish or cut bait moment it will probably happen over the next 6 or 8 months. So I think the challenge for proponents of that facility are to make that what the plan is and who would be the users of this proposed facility, and then probably more importantly, how is it going to be paid for, the actual physical facility, and then how is there a way that enough activity and revenue from that activity can be generated to pay operating expenses and make it a viable business operation, if you will, although it would likely be funded with a significant portion of freeze dollars if the project's going to move ahead. So I think without droning on about it, I'd say that a project that has had a lot of planning and a lot of study, proponents of that project need to get the results of those consultancies and that study out in the general public, and begin to build support for the idea within City Council, within the community, and then certainly at a point not too far into the future, support within city government, specifically within city government, to allocate significant portion of the annual Freeze Foundation towards that kind of project. So without trying to get into too much or get in over my head in the discussion, I think it's something for the kind of civic engaged folks that would be watching these type of Facebook Lives to get engaged, talk to some people who you know to be proponents of it, or to give us a call up here, and I'd be more than happy to spend time here at the office or at a club or anywhere in the community, talking about why that type of facility would be a positive addition and perhaps move the community forward at a faster rate and to a greater degree than the growth and development we're beginning to see in Galion. So, anything else, Matt?
Nope, that's all for tonight.
Oh, I don't want to drone on. I do appreciate the participation. It's getting to be that super hectic time of the year. Tomorrow will be the last City Council meeting of the year. And it's really it's the kind of legislation that's on it is important to the departments that need to make some adjustments in their budget. But by and large, this is a meeting just to finish out the year and get ready to start 2019 on a real positive and constructive note. So thanks for listening tonight. Have a great Christmas, and we'll talk to you sometime next year.